Hello, welcome to my studio. I'm Julie Torrens. We are going to be making some paper ephemera with watercolor and watercolor paper, and we're going to be making some roses and other flowers as well. So I have my Jane Davenport Bright collection paints. I have these paints. This is a company that was called Paper Fashion. They don't make these anymore, but these are metallic and also some shimmery paints, kind of that Aurora Borealis. I'm using my Amazon's Basic watercolor. I'll tell you, since I got this, and I do have a review on my site, this has been some of the best watercolor paper for me right now. I'm using it up more than any of my other art papers. So I'll be on that paper and I cut it in half. So these are some of the flowers that I've been doing. And I just want to show you those roses. Didn't they come out pretty? And I'm going to show you how I did that. Now you can make them different sizes. And you can also add some detail if you want to. Or you can just leave them like this. I think they're beautiful, but I'm going to show you how I made them and some of these other flowers and things as well. So this ephemera, it may not look like much when you have it just, on a board, but look, when you cut them out, look at how beautiful these can be. And you can layer them up however you want on a project, and they can just be beautiful. Look at that. And all made on your own, with your own hands. I mean, isn't that nice? Let me give you a close-up of these guys. I think they're pretty. So let's start digging in. And I know that the roses are going to be something that a lot of people are going to be interested in. So I will start out with those roses. Now I just took that, it's 11 by 14. Yes. 11 by 14, and I cut it in half so that it just is a little more manageable. And we're going to be working on both of these. So I'm going to take my paints. Now, if you're using these type of shimmery paints, they really need activating. So I've just got plain water and I'm giving them a spritz. And I realize you can't see that, and that's because I brought you in closer. And then I've got my brights. So I'll do the best I can to kind of stay in the frame. But again, my goal was to really have you be able to see the painting part of it, because I know you've seen me do brushwork before. So maybe if I put these here, we'll try, because we're working in a small area. I just pulled a variety of brushes out, different manufacturers. I've got a couple of 3 rounds. These are my 3 rounds. So I got what I thought would be like a large, a medium, and a small round. And then I got 2, what I call these squares or square shaders. But I think some of these brushes are called wash brushes. Yeah, this one they call a wash. This is a 1/2 inch. And then this one is number 10. So I've got some paper towels. I've got fresh water. So let's get started. So to start with the roses, I'm going to start with a round brush. I'm going to start with this round brush. This is a Princeton, and I don't know what number it is. I think it wore off. But let's see. This is a 10, so it's obviously smaller than that. So I'm going to put a rose right here in the middle, because I think that's where you'll see best. I'm wetting my brush, and I'm just going to pick up a rosy color. It's kind of a pinkish color. And I'm loading my brush up. I'm going to give it a dot there because on the paper towel, because I just don't want it too wet. And I'm going to start with 2 commas. So this is kind of a backwards comma, and this is another comma, kind of yin and yang. And I'm doing this with more, like being more purposeful than I normally would. They don't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to make this C shape and then just make it thicker. And another C shape. Now my brush is getting lighter because it's getting less paint, more water. That's fine. Let the different shades fall in. That's just going to make it all the better. And then I'm just going to keep making alternating different C shapes. Some of them are thicker, some of them are thinner, and I'm just kind of stacking them up like bricks so that I'm going to touch my water. just so that I'm getting, again, a variety. Now this one, I'm going to really make thicker. And this one, it's thicker but shorter. And then I'm just going to drag this tail out. And let's do another one. Bring it way out here and look at how big. And then just bring it out like that. Like an upside down smile. A little bit more water. Back, and I'm using the same color throughout. And there's another little, and I'm going to do a fat one here and bring it out. Maybe another one here. I'm liking the way this looks. Now this one's lighter. It's also further out, so I don't mind that. I'm going to wrap this right around here. And one more. And that's really light, but that's fine. Okay, when you get to this point, you just leave it alone. So I'm going to set it aside and we can start working on something else. And I just want this to dry some, okay? So off this one goes to dry. And then I want to show you some of the other flowers that I've been making. So I just want to stay in frame as best I can. Here is some other varieties. And what I did was I just showed you if you wanted to add some black highlights, or you don't have to. It's really whatever you want. So let's start working on some of these other flowers. I want to show you this one because I really think that's pretty. So what I did was, and I'm going to start towards the top of my page, is I wet my brush. I picked a color. I'm going to pick the pinkish color, the most pink. And I'm just going to make spots like this. Kind of, and they're going to go everywhere, but we're going to concentrate on the ones where we want them. And if those other dots end up on other flowers, it really is pretty. So don't worry about it. Okay, so there's those. Now, I'm going to take my water bottle and I'm just going to give it a couple of sprays. One more. Okay. Just so that I can see that they're getting some action. Now I'm going to go in and I think I'm going to grab some yellow. And I'm going to put some yellow in. Same way, I'm just doing dots. They're going to be bigger now because of the water. But just a variety of those. And I'm going to add one more color, and I'm going to add this light blue. And these are kind of fluorescent-y colors, but that's fine. And here we go. Some blue. Okay, now I'm going to let that dry, and we're going to work on some others. I'm just going to let that dry. Now the roundy flowers, I call them roundy flowers, and they're the ones that, like these are roundy flowers. Roundy flowers, just those kinds of flowers. So how do I do those? Which we've done some of these before, but I'm going to add a few. And I'm looking at what I have and I'm trying to pick a different color. I'm going into a purple. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to make a pointy like this, fill it in. And then a pointy. Now that one ended up with a point on both ends. It's fine. It's totally fine. I can just bring it out like this. And now it looks more like its brother. And I'm going to put one right here. And I'm not touching them in the middle. And there we go. Now these are wet, but I'm just going to keep right on it going. I'm going to take that same purple and I'm going to go this way, but now they're going to touch. And just kind of bring it around. And the same thing over here. I'm going to have them touch. And bring this out. And the last one right here. And they're touching. If they weren't touching, it would be so hard to cut them out. So that's why I'm doing that. Okay. And now I'm just kind of goofing with them a little bit. And there's one. Let that dry and let's do another one. And I'm going to pick a different purple color. And I'm going to do the same thing. Point, point. Got plenty of water here. It's all right. I can just keep dipping into it. Put one here. Like that. And put another one here. Again, I want to leave room between those two so that I can cut them out. Here. This one's going to be a totally different shape, and that's fine. Go back in here. Like this. Go back in here. That's just the petal that keeps on giving, huh? Put one over here. And last one. Now look, these look totally different, but yet they still say flower, and they're just fantasy flowers. But what could be easier? Okay, now this is more of a true purple. This is more of an eggplanty purple. You know, that's just how my eyes see them. I'm going back into the darker purple, this purple, and I'm going to add some to this, right like this. Just in the middle of these petals, I'm just putting 3 lines, and they're going to blend and blur, and that's fine. And now I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to go into that first, this purple, and I'm going to add it to this one. And they're not precision lines. I'm just getting some pigment on there and there. So there's those two. Now I've got some room, obviously. So I'm going into the lightest green that I have. It's kind of a yellow green. And I'm just going to go ahead and make an upside down heart. And you know, you can turn your paper. You can make it right side up. And then give it a stem. Same thing. I'm going to go ahead and do an upside down heart. And then give it a stem. And let's make another one. If you can hear a noise, my air conditioning just kicked on. It'll help our dry time. And add a stem. Now I'm going into just one shade darker of green, and I'm just going to draw in a vein. And you can put more veins in if you want. Like that. How's that? You can even go in, just depends on, you know, how complicated, how not do you want to. And you can just shade in, can you see? Shade in one side, like this. Get a little more paint. And there. Okay, so this one, it's not dry, but almost. So I'm rinsing my brush out. I'm going back into the lighter of the green, and I'm going to add a stem. And I'm going to add little branches within. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just adding some little branches, and where the color has kind of stopped and I see some little white spaces, I'm just adding a few more little branches. And some branches would be on top, you know, it's okay. And I'm just making them like a Y. And I think I'm going to just widen this out a little bit. And like that. Okay, now that's going to be drying. Now I've got to move my paints because I'm going to push this up so that you can see. I'm just checking my little guide marks to see if I'm in the right spot. And I can always pull those paints back in. Okay, I think you should be able to see now. All right, should we do a couple more of those roses? This time I'm going to use a square brush, and maybe you have a square brush, and if you do, that's great. I'm going to go in and I'm going to make this one a yellow rose. So I'm just going into yellow. I'm going to make those commas. And of course they're different, but that's all right. All these flowers, even in the same species, they're different. And I'm just making these C shapes, widening them out. This is awfully dry. Let me just get some more, okay? And I'm just tucking them in. Turning my brush. See here, turn, and then go back to skinny. A little more water. This is thirsty. Skinny, turning it, skinny, fat, skinny, skinny, fat, skinny. See, I'm just turning my brush. Fat, skinny. You see a rose happening? Skinny, fat, skinny, and just a little one there, little one here. Now I'm just kind of rounding it out a little bit. Some fatter ones. There, okay, there's a rose. Can you see that? Let me show you. Can you see that? There's our rose. Okay, now these, I would call them kind of dry, not really. And I'm just keeping that same square brush. I'm going to go into the pink. And I'm going to just dots with the side of my brush. And I'm just making some dotty center. Like that. That's all I'm going to do for those right now. This guy up here, he just needs to be left. So should I do another rose here with the square brush? You can do that. Okay. Let's make a purple rose. Sure. So I'm going to make a comma and a comma. And then I'm going to make skinny, fat, skinny, skinny, fat, skinny. Tuck one in here. Tuck one in here. Here's a fat, skinny, fat, skinny, fat, skinny, fat, skinny. Look at how fast. And I'm just putting a little in here and there to kind of round it out a little bit. There. Okay, there's two of them on there. Should we do one more? Let's do that. I'll give it one more. I'll go in kind of more of a reddy pink. This one may not be quite as big, but that's okay. So I'm going to start comma shape, skinny, turning it to fat, skinny, 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 and just kind of a skinny one here, and maybe a couple of skinny ones here, like that. And now I'm going between. So fat, skinny, I mean, turn it to fat, skinny, and a little skinny, fat, skinny, skinny, fat, skinny, and pretty much all fat. There. Those might be a bit of a challenge to cut apart, but they'll be fine. All right. Couple more leaves. I'm going to use my square brush going into my lighter green. And I'm going to this time not make it heart shape, just make it teardroppy shape. Can you see? Because I know I made the vision much tighter on this. Okay, that's good. Put another leaf over here. Like that. Okay. All right, now, I still have room for some more, and maybe we'll come back to this one, I don't know. But I'm gonna set this one aside and let it dry. And I'm gonna come back to this one. There. Now, it's not completely dry. As a matter of fact, if I touch that middle, it'll come up on my hand. It's okay. Now, I'm taking round brush, or you could take your square brush, whatever you want. I'm going into my cleanest water. I am wetting it, but then I'm giving it a couple dabs. And now I'm just gonna go over the whole thing, just like this. And yes, the colors are blurring and blending. And I'm just going where the white is. Stop. Now there's some areas that are completely still white. There are some areas that are darker. And when that dries, you would be surprised at just how much dimension this is going to give this flower. And it really looks pretty. So, should I make another one? Sure. Okay. I'm going to use this big old round brush. And let's put one right here. And I'm going to go into that almost red color again. And I'm going to make comma, comma, and I'm going to go skinny, press, skinny. So this time, instead of twisting, I'm just going light touch, press, light touch. And I'm going to go right in here. Light touch, press, light touch. 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 And all heavy touch. All heavy touch. And we'll go light touch, press, light touch. There. Good. And we're going to let that one dry. At least dry some. I think I'm just going to add a little leaf or a little petal right out here. There. Okay. So the reason why I did this was when my rose was like this, and I was trying to think about where am I going to cut, because the white's going right inside. So that's when I thought, well, I'm just going to wash it once around and just make it into a circle. And I loved it. So you can see now the difference. And as it dries, it does change. But you can see the difference between this one and this one, between this one and this one. I just think it makes all the difference in the world. Okay, so I'm talking and talking, but let's just put my money where my mouth is, okay? I'm going to cut this one out. So let me grab my scissors. These are not my favorite scissors. Here. Cutting paper. These are my favorites. And I'm going to cut the big rose here out. And I'm trying to stay in the frame so you can see. And there. Okay, set this aside. Don't put it on the wet ones. Did I put it on the wet ones? I don't think so. I hope not. Okay, and so now all I have to do is pretty much kind of cut a circle, because I don't have all these, I don't know where to go, white spots. And I'm just following the basic shape of this rose. And there. Could there be anything easier to cut out? But look, pair him up with one like this, or maybe like this, and a couple of leaves. Let's tuck these guys in like this, and one over here, and maybe this one over here. Isn't that nice? I mean, you can just go crazy. But maybe since these all have some black and this one doesn't, maybe we wish we could have some black on it. And I'll just show you how I do that. Now, I've got 3 Sharpies. This is a heavy one to me. I think it's still called fine point, not this one. This one, I have only found this Sharpie, and it's called a Sharpie Pen Brush Black. That's its exact name. But it has, can you see? That is a brush tip. I've never had a Sharpie with a brush tip, but I found that this brush tip does give me the same waterproof as the others. And that's why I go to Sharpie. I really find it waterproof. So I'm not going to do every one. And I'm not going to do any of them completely. But you will see that your eye will kind of fill in the blanks. But I just think if you outline it heavy all the way around, each petal outlined perfectly, I think it loses its organic look. So I'm just giving it a few here and there with some kind of wiggly lines. Like this. And I just keep turning it and looking and seeing where I think it may need a little bit of black. But I am not going black over the whole thing. I would say each petal is getting a touch. But that's all. Like that. Okay, so now that one has some black on it. So let's see what we think when we start adding others that have some black. Maybe it'll look a little bit more together to you. See? Now, you tell me that you wouldn't just love that on a journal page. I think it's gorgeous. And you know, you can go big, you can go small, whatever you want. Pretty. Okay. So, use your imagination. And when you look at this and you think, well, how am I going to cut all that out? Don't be overwhelmed. Make small groups. Now, if I hand you this, do you feel like you can cut it out? Sure. But when I hand you this, you're like, whoa, at least I can be. So just cut it into manageable pieces. And maybe that's all you do. Just cut this into manageable pieces and stop. Then the next time you decide to do some fussy cutting, you've got a handful like this. There you have it. Now, these do not cut the same as cardstock or as, well, certainly not printer paper, but you can still cut them out. I wouldn't say it's harder. It's not harder. It's just a little different. And as you're painting your little flowers, you want to make it so that there is a place that you can actually cut. So let's go with this one. Now, let's make it manageable. I'm going to set this aside. And this one I added some black. So I hope you can see it. And there's dots all out here. Am I going to take them all? No. But I am not going to worry about not, like, I don't know, like cutting around all the little details. See, now here there's like dots. I'm just going to go around them in kind of a wiggly pattern. You know, I'm not going to have it be just a blob, but I'm just going in with kind of a wiggly line. And, you know, you can go as close or as small as you want. You can get some little cuticle scissors and really cut fine detail, or just do like I'm doing. It is whatever you want. if you're putting this on a white background, you really don't need to cut out as many details at all. So let's see what we've got here. It's still hooked. Come off. There we go. Okay. So now we've got this one. And if we tuck it in with this one, I know it looks goofy. Let's get a white sheet. We'll just turn this over. So here, 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 here. Look. Don't you love it? I do. I think it's beautiful. Okay, last thing. Tap this off. There we go. Now, these are ones I did today. Yes. Let's grab them. Get this out of my way because I you know, it's not that I'm just so fussy, but I don't want to drip water on them because then that'll just give them a whole different look again. I might like it, but you know, might not. All right, these are first step, but not the second step. So I'm taking my big old round brush, or you can take a big old square brush, but just a bigger brush so that you're not rubbing so much. I'm going to start with this yellow one, and I'm just going around like that. Done. This one. Done. This one. Done. Yep, done. And there we have that. Now, when they dry, they're going to look different, but they're going to look cool. So these are going to dry. And here's another one. Should I cut that one out? I'll just show you what I first do. I just cut things out like this. Basic, turning it into little jobs like that. Now this one needs black. So I'm going to go ahead in with, and this one, I don't know if you can see, but I did do some shimmer on that one. So I'm not sure if it shows for you. Am I even where you can see? Okay. I'm going to do some black on this one. And what I do is I go to the center, but then I skip a petal. And then I'm going to go to this one to the center. And now this one is behind. And this one, I'm going to go to the center. And this one is more behind. And now I'm going to add some, I think I'll add the center next. And I've got some little yellow that I'm going to circle. I put some yellow dots in there. And now I'm just going to put these little folds there. And now this leaf, go around. There. Looks good to me. And now I'm going to take the leaf off. And now I'm just cutting this out. And it doesn't feel overwhelming at all that I'm going to just have to sit and cut all day or through a 2.5-hour movie. No. No one wants to do that. Well, maybe some people do. I think some people find the fussy cutting just kind of therapeutic. But some don't. And so for you and me, we just cut them into smaller jobs so that we're not struggling so much. And I'm cutting slower because I am not holding my arms and my hands in the most ideal position. So that's why it's going slower. But when you do it, you're going to be having it in your lap, or you're going to be having it, you know, in a direction that feels very, very comfortable to you. But when you cut these out, and here the red is outside of the black, but I left that red in. See? I think that is just sweet. Get this guy out here and there. Look at that. It's so sweet. It's so cute. There. Tell me you don't like that. I dare you. I think it looks gorgeous. We still have this little leaf. So you'll have to let me know in the comments if you've tried this, or maybe you can tell me, you know what? I already saw someone do that to roses. Good, but I never saw it. And again, I did it out of necessity because I had some painted through the first step and I could not figure out how was I going to cut these out that they weren't going to, you know, look like they'll look joined, like they'll look together. And so that's why I did the wash of paint over the top. So I did it out of necessity, but you know, I'm not arguing with you if you've seen other people do it. There you go. I didn't. Okay. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it was inspirational, maybe educational. Please consider giving me a like. It helps my channel so much. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.